Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Second City podcast. I'm Daniel Sketchley,
And I'm Callum Byrne.
and we are fully into the home straight now. We've got so much to talk about this week regarding Blues and Villa. Obviously, Villa had a huge game against Chelsea on what night was that? Was that Sunday night? And
Saturday.
Saturday night, sorry, it's all blurring into one now.
Yeah.
And of course, Blues went to Huddersfield, and that was something. And we've got plenty to talk about off the pitch as well regarding obviously the Dion Sanderson situation. We'll touch on that. Unai Emery's contract news broke this week. Just today, some news came out regarding a spending cap in the Premier League. So we're going to get into all this and where Villa stand in that and so on as well, regarding the spending cap and so on. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty big episode. Cal, how are you? You keeping well?
Not too bad, not too bad. It was a nice sort of semi-relaxing weekend if we put the football to one side. But yeah, ready to go again this week. Back to Villa Park on Thursday night, which is going to be something. A very, very difficult ticket gathering and the most stressful ticket gathering I've had in a long, long time.
Yeah, you said you nearly missed out on
Yeah,
it, did you?
yeah. The club is doing a lot of things right on the pitch at the moment, and off the pitch, not so much. The ticket criteria was a mess. So I think we've had 7 home European games, and after the season ticket holders have bought their seats, it goes to members, and they didn't stagger the members criteria other than if you've been to one game, which is basically general sale at that point, because if there's a 30,000 season ticket waiting list, I don't know how many members there are, but there could be 30,000 members who've all done one European game. So the website kept crashing. I did get one, it took like 45 minutes to get one, but we're going.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, you wouldn't want to miss out on that one. Shall we start where we always do then with what we're wearing before we get into the real juicy stuff?
Starting
Do
to
you want
run
to go
low
first
on
or shall I?
shirts now, I've found.
Yeah, so I texted you because I thought I'd not got one, like a new one ready. Obviously, I have to I've been lending some off my cousins and some friends and stuff recently. It's like, oh, I don't think I've got one. I'm just gonna have to reuse one from like one of our first episodes months ago, and I hope no one remembered. But don't worry, I did manage to find one last minute that I haven't worn yet.
We might as well lead into your shirt then in that
Yeah,
case.
nicely set up. So it is a well, I'll let you describe it.
Yeah, we see. I feel like in the last few, I feel like maybe in the start of the podcast you were very modern, and we've slipped into very retro, and it's making it
Yeah,
really hard to remember what years are which. So it's phones for you. So we know that's kind of early 2000s. Le Coq Sportif. The badge is like effectively like white out and in a shield.
yeah.
Um, is that a little bit of black, or is it dark navy on like
No, it is.
sleeve
Yeah,
trim? Yeah.
I would say black.
And it's got a bit of a collar on it as well. Centralized
Mm.
badge. Hmm. Let's go around 2000, 2001.
You're very, very close. I think I wore 2000, 2001 a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
This is the season after. This is 2001 too. So very unlucky. So this year we actually had a great season this year. This was the year Steve Bruce came in as manager. He came in the October. He replaced club legend Trevor Francis. And this was the year where we snuck into the playoffs and ended up winning them after a few near misses for a few seasons where we got in the playoffs and never made it to the final. This was the year where we finished 5th and beat Millwall in the playoff semi-final, and then Norwich in the final. Of course, big game for Blues against Norwich this weekend, so I thought it was quite appropriate to maybe get this shirt on now as well. And also it's coming up to the anniversary as well. Of course, was in May when we won at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff to get promoted, and it was a weird. Obviously, we were very young at the time. I don't have any memory of this at all. But when you look back on it, it's quite mad. We went on a 10-game unbeaten run at the end of the season, and we were actually like 10th before that, and not really looking like we were going to get in the playoffs, and then ended up sneaking in there and winning it. And funny coincidence, because I think the shirt you're wearing may have a few parallels, which is
Yeah.
pure coincidence. But we'll get onto that in a minute. And on that playoff semi-final, we beat Millwall and we were going out. I think we drew the first leg at home 1-1, I think it was, and still had away goals back then. And we were so in the second leg at the Den, we were no, we were drawing on aggregate, but going out on away goals. And I think it went to extra time, and Blues was still. I can't remember if it used to, the away goals effect used to come in at the end of the 90 minutes or at the end of 120. I think it was 120, and Blues were going out, and then Stern John scored in like the absolute last minute. So Blues 1-2-1 and went through, and you hear like horror stories about how unhappy the Millwall fans were that night, shall we say. Apparently it was like an unprecedented level of kind of carnage afterwards by all accounts. But on the football front, thankfully it all worked out for Blues. Other things that went on this season then. So top scorer was Tommy Mooney, and we were promoted alongside Man City and West Brom, although West Brom did do the double over us this season. Kind of interesting how the team's fortunes of those three, Man City, West Brom and Blues, have changed. Like Man City haven't been relegated since and are now the Champions League holders, and Blues could this time next week be in League One, which is quite a humbling thought. Some of the players we brought in, I think Nico Vasson came in this season, Jeff Kennard, Steve Vickers, Tommy Mooney was signed this season as well. So I think Paul Devlin maybe came in this season as well. So some really popular figures at Blues over the next few years. Damien Johnson as well, who ended up playing for us and captaining us, it was nearly 10 years before he left the club. So yeah, some really really great players there, and a really memorable season. It is, of course, on my famous Blues kits through the years poster behind me there, just there. So yes, this is 2001 to home. But behind me, there is a theme to the shirts I've got out behind me. Can you guess, Cal, what the theme may be?
Is
Out the way.
Is it Final Day Survival, Dan?
It is. Well done. Yeah, well done. So for those listening instead of watching, I've got 13-14 home, 16-17 home, 17-18 home, and 19-20 home. So 13-14 home 10 years ago.
Is that the Lee
Oh, yeah.
Clark, Paul Caddis? Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's really hard to like point, and I'm like looking at the screen and trying to point at what's going on behind me. I can't get my perspectives right. Yeah, that was the Lee Clark one. That will be 10 years ago on Friday. It wasn't in that kit, but it was that season. The 16-17 one was when Shay Adams scored in the last minute, on the last day to keep us up under Harry Redknapp. That 17-18 one, I actually think has the most parallels to this season. It was a home game against Fulham on the last day, who were chasing promotion themselves, and we won 3-1.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously.
I remember that actually, because wasn't there a pitch invasion at the end of that game? Because I remember seeing a video on Twitter of a Blue Nose going up to Mitrovic on the pitch saying beat Villa in the playoffs.
Yes, and that's exactly what they did. And then this one on the end here, 1920s, the Pep Clotet, the Jude Bellingham season. People, I think, kind of forget that one. We technically weren't safe until the last game that season, but the big difference there was it was a real like damp squib of an ending. It was during COVID, so the schedule was all weird, and so it was actually more like, I think it was a survival like Wednesday or something. It was like a night game, and we lost 3-1 against Derby, I think it was, but still stayed up. Like it was a weird one, because I don't think we were ever really in danger of going down. We needed another result to go our way, and it was always looking likely to happen. So there was no real tension to it. But technically, in the last 10 years, we've had 4 seasons where we've stayed up on the last day, and it will be the 5th this Saturday. So I thought it'd be appropriate to have a tribute to them as well. Some great memories there, and hopefully we have another great memory on Saturday. So yeah.
What about this Villa shirt, Dan? I don't think it's going to be one of the harder ones I get you to guess. It's not going to be like that 1957 FA Cup final shirt from a few months ago.
No, yeah, the sponsor's 32 red, and it's a home shirt for sure, but obviously Villa wear claret and blue, but it is very claret. Let's be honest, it's 99% claret. It's only really the collar and the cuffs on the sleeves that are the blue. And it's Luke is the sponsor, the kit manufacturer, isn't it? Sorry. And I'm pretty sure you only had them for one season. And I think it was the year you went up. So that was that would have been 2018, 19. Yeah.
Yeah. Slap bang in between 2 of your kits. right
Yeah.
behind you. Yeah, this is our promotion season shirt. One of our rarest, it's probably the rarest modern shirt, probably of a Premier League club, I would say at the moment, just because Luke was such a small manufacturer and the kits were very popular just because of the design, the quality, and then the season that unfolded. They couldn't make enough of them, and so it is very rare. I think they go, if you have one and you in your wardrobe and you don't wear it and you put it on eBay, you will, and it's in good condition, you're probably looking at about £100 for a shirt
Wow.
that's what, just 6 years old, something
5
like
years
that.
old. Yeah.
Yeah, which is insane. The goalkeeper shirts, I would kill for the green goalkeeper shirt. I never bought one, and you don't even see them on eBay. The orange and the grey one, goalkeeper shirts go on, and they're about like, they're up at like £300 to £600. Like, they're just so rare. An amazing season where, similar to the parallels that you were saying, we went on a 10-match winning run and an 11-match unbeaten run, because the 11th match we drew, which was the anniversary of that 11th game just this weekend gone, which was a 1-1 draw at Ellen Road, where absolute
Oh, I remember
chaos
that. Yeah.
and bedlam, like it's, the weirdest, one of the weirdest things I've ever seen on a football pitch, where Sky Sports, the clip they put on social media, always misses out the bit just before it that caused all the carnage, where a Leeds player went down and we put the ball out, and then Codger goes down injured. He was not really injured. And everyone stopped, and Leeds went to put the ball out and decided not to. And then I think it's Tyler Roberts, plays
Oh
the ball
wow.
through
Okay.
to Mateus Click, who then, it's a great finish, buries it into the bottom corner, and all sorts of pushing and shoving break out. Patrick Bamford does his best pantomime impression and gets El Ghazi sent off, and subsequently gets himself a 3-match ban, I think, and thus missed the playoffs. And that was, I mean, their playoff games against Derby were
Oh,
like
unbelievable. Yeah.
all time classic second leg playoff. Um, but yeah, we had a very famous Derby victory against Birmingham City in this kit, where Jack Grealish scored the winner. We had the famous second City Derby victory at Villa Park, where we scored 4, when we almost were 2-0 down after about 20 minutes, and then in the space of 2 minutes we're 2-1 up. For 9 minutes, Dan, it was dreamland.
Oh, don't remind me. Don't remind me. I
Um,
remember it very clearly. Yeah.
and it all culminated in beating the Baggies in the playoff semi-finals on penalties. Um,
Which weirdly I was at. I
yeah,
went to that game.
which weirdly you
Yeah.
were at, as we've said before,
Yeah.
and eventually 12 months on from losing the playoffs in one of the most emotionally draining and very disappointing days I've had in a football stadium, to easily one of the best 12 months on. Um, It's weird, like you'll have seen Leicester got promoted this week, and they got promoted on Friday night via a different game, and they weren't even playing. And like, obviously, getting promoted is amazing, and it's better to go up that way than to not go up. But I wouldn't trade in going up via the playoffs and winning at Wembley, as opposed to a result going our way when we're not even playing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I completely.
Um, But yeah, an amazing shirt, a lovely kit, an amazing kit. I had to have a sponsor repair done on it because in the really hot summer, the sponsor kind of stuck to itself in the wardrobe and it looked terrible. So I had the sponsor repaired on that. So I've never quite gone for a player on the back. I ummed and ahmed for a long time, but I didn't. I think I'll leave it blank for now. Let's get into the games,
Yep.
because it was a tale of 2 draws this week.
Yeah.
One probably more positive than another. We said last week, Dan, if we'll do your game first because it was chronological. I think I said to you last week that the game against Huddersfield, a draw benefited neither team. And so we could see 2 teams going hell for leather for the win. And we obviously got a draw. Or there was obviously, the game was a draw.
Yeah, and weirdly, I mean, I didn't go to the game, but the impression I get is that it almost didn't feel like that 2 teams going hell for leather until really the end, really. I mean, especially for Huddersfield, who they're not they're technically not relegated yet, but they are. Like they're 3 points adrift of 21st, and they've got like a minus 15 goal difference. Um, but yeah, by all accounts, it was a really tepid, nervy game, I guess, and really low on quality.
Which I could imagine for the first half, it being quite tense because it was all because for Huddersfield especially, it was almost like a cup final.
Sure. And it was just typical Blues, honestly, of this season. So we did go 1-0 up before half time. Koji Miyoshi scored a really nice finish as well, I must say. And then obviously we came out and conceded as soon as the second half started, and obviously we had no response to that. And Rowett seemed a bit, in his post-match interview, he was talking about how at half time they talked all about keeping the shape and being solid when they came out at the start of the second half, because it is a real like danger zone time, isn't it? Like it's like it's almost like you're just twice at risk of conceding a goal for some reason in those first sort of 10-15 minutes of the second half. But and he seemed a bit annoyed about that, and rightly so, because we gave away a really sloppy goal at the start of the second half. And then we had no response, really. We didn't really create enough. If anything, it sounded like Huddersfield were going for the jugular at the end. They were even sending their keeper up, with like a couple of minutes left by the sound of things, because they really needed a goal. And I was kind of pleased about that, because I was like, well, if we can catch them on the counter or something. And obviously that never happened. It's just not been us this season at all. It's been a long time since we've shown that. Like, it's weird because at the start of the season we were getting so many late goals, and they were huge points. I think back to like Plymouth when we won 2-1, and with the Jay Stansfield goal. There's plenty of goals like that. Obviously the Leeds game where Duke scores the penalty, the Bristol City away game where Duke scored in the last few minutes. We were a team that really ground it out till the end, and we're just not that anymore. And I don't think you can put it down to seasonal fatigue as we come to the end of the season, because we've conceded a lot of late goals as well since in the second half of the season. So other teams are clearly able to do it still. Why aren't we? And the big takeaway is everyone I was spoken to was there, and from all the reports and everything is the big. I've got these kits behind me from like 16, 17, 17, 18. We had at least a bit of momentum. We had momentum going into the big finale those seasons. There was like a bit of belief and like fight, and what those teams lacked in quality, they had in character and personality and spirit to like get them over the line. And the Cadiz season is kind of weird because we actually were on a terrible, terrible run, but then we did show that character in that fight with a very poor squad just to get over the line. And I just don't. This one, it feels more like this season, the 2019-20 season, where we limped to the end of the season and we had really nothing about us at all. That this feels more like that, and apparently it was getting a bit nasty at the end. There's a lot of you're not fit to wear the shirt coming from the fans, but I understand their frustration. Like they've travelled to Rotherham away and then Huddersfield away in consecutive weeks, and we picked up 2 points. That is abysmal.
And that means you've only won 3 away games all season now.
Yeah. So I got some mad stats for you coming up, which I enjoyed. It took ages, but worth it, I think. Yeah, so only 3 away, and it comes down to this thing as well. All season, we looked at these players and thought that squad is too good to go down, and I just don't think it carries any. I don't think you can argue that anymore. 3 away wins all season. I think it's 12 wins all season. I think out of 45, which is awful. Let's be honest. No league double. We did not complete a single league double over anyone this year. We've got 46 points. So for context, we've got 40. Yeah, sorry, 46 points. No, 47 points. I think we're on. That season where we stayed up under Harry Redknapp, we stayed up on 53 points, I think it was. And it was to the wire. It was like, we just scraped it. Like, this has been, we're going to finish on a lower points tally than these seasons. And that's just crazy. I mean, I think it was 44. It's a really low total, the Clark season. But the others, we got higher points tallies than this season. There's no argument that this squad is too good to go down. They have proved over 45 games that they are not good enough, in my opinion. Some of them are, some of them have shown something, but on the whole, Rooney left 5 months ago. You can't keep blaming him, in my opinion. You can maybe blame him for derailing things and meaning that we didn't achieve anything this season, but I don't think you can blame him for us if we get relegated. I don't think you can blame him for that. So yeah, do you want to hear these mad stats then? So
Yeah, hit me.
I say mad stats to be fair. Yeah, we won 3 away games this season. So I did some number crunching. This took ages, so I hope you appreciate these. But that Clark season, right, 13-14, we won 9 away games that season. We won 9 away games. We only won 3 this year. That's how, to be fair, our home record was awful. But that's how big the drop has been this year. We have never in our lifetime won as few away games as that in a season in the Championship. We had one other season, I think, where we only won 3, and I think in the Premier League seasons, I looked through it, we won like 2. But every other championship season, we've won like sort of 5, 6, 7 away games a year, even if we've been really awful. But here's the mad one. So I said we didn't complete a league double at all this season. When do you think the last season was for Blues that we didn't complete a single league double over a team? This took ages. I went through Wikipedia for
Yeah.
ages to find the answer to this before we came on.
Oh God. It obviously must have been a year you were terrible.
That narrows it
Uh,
down.
could be in a Premier League season, given that. So let's think. 2007? Is it earlier than?
1988,
Oh,
89 was the last season where we didn't do a league double over anyone. It took me ages to find that. Even in the Premier League, we did at least one every year. Bizarrely, one year, the only team we did a double over was Tottenham Hotspur, bizarrely. Yeah, so what's that, 30, 24, 36 years ago, 35, 36 years ago? It's a record-breakingly bad season. The only weird thing now is we somehow still can get out of it at the weekend. So we got Norwich at home on Saturday. Annoyingly, they've still got something to play for as well. But I do think we'll maybe get onto it more later when we preview that game. But I do think a win might just about be enough to keep us up, because I was looking at the teams above us. So Sheffield Wednesday are on 50 points. Blackburn are 3 points ahead of us. Sheffield Wednesday are 1 point ahead of us, and so are no, sorry, Sheffield Wednesday I think are 2 points ahead of us, and Plymouth are 1 point ahead of us.
I've got the table here.
Yeah,
Sheffield
sorry, go
Wednesday.
for it.
So
Sheffield Wednesday
Huddersfield.
3 points ahead of us.
So Huddersfield are 23rd with 45. Blues are 22nd with 47. Then it's Plymouth in 21st with 48 points, so a point above you. Sheffield Wednesday are 20th with 50 points, so 3 ahead of you. And they are below Blackburn on goal difference only. So Blackburn also have 50 points. So
Cool. So
it's Sheffield Wednesday's goal difference is 10 worse than you. Yours is the
yeah,
same as Blackburn, but 5 worse than Plymouth.
sure. I think our best chance of catching one of them, weirdly, is Blackburn, who are the highest of them teams, because we're level on goal difference. They've got Leicester away, and I know Leicester have been inconsistent lately, but I think Leicester, having been promoted, it's going to be a bit of a party atmosphere, end the season on a high. I think they're our best shot. We're level on goal difference, so if we can win, I think it will just be enough to haul us over them. But wouldn't it be cruel? Obviously, John Eustace is their manager now.
Yeah.
It's just something's written there, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
something like, if John Eustace is like the man to like to relegate us, I try not to think about it, but it's just written, isn't it? Unfortunately. But no, we have got a chance to just about get ourselves out of it. But I have no idea why you wouldn't go hell for leather against either Rotherham or Huddersfield. And then we could probably play for a draw against Norwich and probably get us over the line. Did you say Plymouth are 1 point ahead of us?
Yes.
And they've got 5 better goal difference. So
Yeah.
like we'd have to win. So we have to win basically. A draw is not going to be enough. We're probably not going to catch them. The draw, because their goal difference probably isn't going to get hit that badly.
Yeah. So on
So yeah,
Saturday, do you know who Plymouth have got on Saturday?
they've got Hull. Plymouth have got Hull.
Yeah. Well, at least Hull have
Sheffield
something to
Wednesday.
play for because they can still get into the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, yeah, that's why I'm kind of confident that a win will be enough, because I think Plymouth have got Hull. I can't see them winning there. Sheffield Wednesday have got Sunderland, but to be honest, I think Sheffield Wednesday are safe now,
It's just
because I
that
think
goal
they'll.
difference.
True, I think they'll get something against Sunderland though. They're in really good form now, Sheffield Wednesday, and then Blackburn have got Leicester. So I think if we win, we could potentially overhaul Plymouth and Blackburn. Potentially, I don't think it's inconceivable. but we'll see on Saturday. We'll get into all that later, I guess. My grade would be an E, and the only reason I'm not giving it an F is because I guess technically we didn't lose. Technically, we have still got a fighting chance. But like I said with the Rotherham game, it was a must-win game, and we didn't win. So you could argue it is a complete failure and should be an F. Man of the match, I don't have one. Sorry. And then 3-word match review. Oh, like I'd say complacent, and then 2 other words, lacking character. Complacent, comma, lacking character is my 3-word match review. I think you can tell Callum really thinks about his 3-word match reviews more than I do before.
Well, I try. I don't ever want to be in the position of being here going, trying to think of it on the spot. So I write it ahead. I write it ahead of recording.
I always forget to think one up. But yeah, cool. Shall we get on to Saturday night then? Because you played Chelsea at home.
Yeah. Just putting out there, Saturday 8 o'clock kickoff. Not a fan. Weird kickoff time. Don't like it. I don't mind the 8 o'clock kickoffs in midweek because there's something kind of special about a midweek game. But yeah, 8 o'clock kickoff. I could have gone. I didn't really fancy going up for an 8 o'clock kickoff and then trekking back in the middle of the night because I do that enough in the midweek games. But we weren't great, in all honesty. We started well. We got a goal within like the first 4 or 5 minutes, which was an own goal, but John McGinn definitely should have scored it, but he kind of scuffed his shot and it hit Mark Cucurella and went in. And you can see like the Chelsea fans were all like this. The atmosphere seemed incredible. The players looked like they were up for it. And I was sat at home watching it going, obviously this Chelsea side absolutely crumbled and folded against Arsenal like earlier on in the week. And I really thought, well, God, if we get another goal in this first like 15 minutes or something, could go 2-0 up, their heads are going to drop and we could really go for them. And, obviously being so close with Spurs, and we do have the better goal difference, but we could even possibly make it even better. And it's like an extra point, a bit like in the relegation battle, how Sheffield Wednesday's goal difference is almost like minus a point for them. But we really didn't grow into the game as I thought we would. We lost Yuri Tielemans with a groin strain. It looks like it's going to be about 2 weeks or 2 games he's going to miss. So he will hopefully be back for the second leg against Olympiacos. Chelsea had a goal ruled out for offside. Close, but thankfully, the time Nicholas Jackson scored, it was offside. He should have scored a little bit later on where he got a free header and hit the base of the post. So that was a let-off. And it seemed like Chelsea were really growing into the game. And then out of nowhere, just on half-time, we scored again. Matty Cash found Morgan Rogers, who's in absolutely sublime form. Beautiful finish into the bottom corner. And we were 2-0 up at half-time. Probably didn't deserve to be because we weren't great. But I really thought we'd probably be a bit better in the second half. Second half starts, we've lost Emi Martinez with looks like a hamstring strain. He was going to miss Thursday night anyway, so there's half a chance. It's judging by some of the rumors, and you can only believe rumors on Twitter with a very big pinch of salt, but it looks like he's probably going to miss 2 games, or hopefully be back for the Olympiacos game. That's the one we really need him back for. Having said that, I thought Robin Olsen did very well on Saturday night, and I am not his biggest fan by any stretch of the imagination, as I'm sure you can, you would say. And I am a bit nervous about him playing on Thursday, but while I thought he played very, very well, and he has improved in the last couple of games that I've seen of him. I remember this last year, in particular at Brentford away last year when Martinez went off at halftime and Olsen came on, is that while he might have a good game, you can tell the defense just absolutely crap themselves when he's in the nets because he can't play out from the back, and that's fine. He's the sub goalkeeper, but it disjoints all our play, and we look so nervous defensively, even if he's having a decent game in goal. And then we obviously let a sloppy goal in where we didn't start the second half very well, and Chelsea built that pressure. Madueke scored. If he had have missed, it would have been a penalty because John McGinn absolutely cleaned out Conor Gallagher in the build-up. But it was good advantage from the referee, who I actually thought had a good night, Craig Pawson. He's probably one of the more underrated referees in the Premier League. You don't really see people moaning about him that much, so that's usually a good indicator of a half-decent referee. And yeah, we still didn't kick into gear. Obviously, losing 2 players to injury, and we were already pretty threadbare now. As much as I've absolutely loved this season, I kind of can't wait for it to end. We are so threadbare in terms of players, and we like many clubs that this season we've been hit very badly by the amount of injuries, and the nature of us having a small squad is starting to have an impact, because we were getting overrun in the midfield in the second half, and we had no midfielders left. We didn't have any to bring on other than Timi Rigabunam, who's only 20 or something. We did concede another goal, annoyingly, and where we just backed off Conor Gallagher, but I think you just have to hold your hands up. The finish on his weak foot is top draw. It's a great finish. The defending isn't great because we're just backing off, and we give him the time, we give him the space to just whip it into the top corner. But the finish is top draw. It's a great goal. And I think we were just trying to see the game out. We had a great chance. I can't remember when it was, but Ollie Watkins, we couldn't get him into the game at all. The poor guy talk about feeding off scraps. He wasn't feeding off anything all game, really. And he had a great chance very, very late on to win the game. He put it over the bar. Disappointing one. And then there was a disallowed goal right at the end for Chelsea, who thought they'd won it. The commentary I was watching called it as a foul immediately before the ball hit the back of the net, and it was disallowed by VAR. I think it's soft. I can see why they've disallowed it. I think if it was in the middle of the park, I don't think it would have really been given. I don't understand why Carlos doesn't make more of a meal of it, because you can always kind of tell whether something's a foul or a penalty or whatever, because you can kind of tell by player reactions, and he doesn't really bat an eyelid. And Diego Carlos is a big, strong man. I thought he was weak in that situation, really. But we'll take it. I thought it was soft. I don't know. The referee really should have seen it in real time. If he was going to change his mind, he had a great view of it. But okay, the way they use VAR is a bit weird, because really he should just go to the monitor and go yes or no, make his own decision, not just change his mind. But that's a debate for another day. It's been another case this year of us blowing a 2-goal lead. I talked about this when we drew with Brentford. This is only like 2 episodes ago. The thing all season for us, we concede too many goals. We concede a lot of sloppy goals, and it's the main thing that will take us to the next level. I think, not to do a direct comparison, but if you look at Arsenal last year, especially in the run-in, and even in the build-up to the run-in, they let a lot of goals in. Even in games where they scored 3, 4, 5 goals, they always let one in, maybe like 2-0 or 3-0, just to make it a bit tense, and then they'd pull clear. And ultimately that caught up with them in the run-in, and it cost them the league title. And this year you can see that they're not as maybe free-flowing going forward, especially in the first half of the year. They maybe weren't blowing teams away, but they were very solid defensively. And that's something I think we will look at in the summer. And because we concede way too many goals, and we have blown a 2-goal lead on many occasions this year, somehow we've only been caught out by it 3 times, but it's happened at least 6 or 7, which is insane, really. I hate that. I hate using football cliches like 2-0 is a dangerous scoreline, because it shouldn't be, and it isn't, really. 2-1 is a dangerous scoreline, or 1-0, because that's where you can drop the points. So, thankfully, my 3-word match review is a point gained. And I was relieved to kind of get out of the game with a point, because we kind of didn't deserve it. But also frustrated that we blew a 2-goal lead. Ultimately, out of the run of 5 games or what it was, or if people had just said, you'll draw with Arsenal, but you'll beat Chelsea. Yeah, we'll have that. it's just happened the other way around. So, um, it's a point gained. I'll grade it a C because we weren't very good, but we have got something out of the game. Man of the match is tricky because maybe I'll give it to Robin Olsen. He made a wonderful save and then literally seconds before the disallowed goal. And I don't think I'd be amazed if I ever give him man of the match again. So, but he made a brilliant save from Cole Palmer, and that, the disallowed goal afterwards was obviously disallowed. So that save won us a point, a vital point. Spurs lost the North London derby the following day, so it really was a point gained. It is now, even if they win the 2 games in hand, we are now ahead of them, regardless of what they do. So it's back in our own hands to qualify for the Champions League. We've got 3 games to go. I believe if Tottenham lose to Chelsea on Thursday and they lose to Liverpool and we beat Brighton, so these are the next 3 games that are coming up this weekend, we will qualify for the Champions League this weekend. So,
Ugh. Trying to think about
yeah.
just no, it's no, fair enough. I mean, I pains me to say it, but I don't see them catching you now. I think they're just too inconsistent, Spurs.
I think they're too inconsistent as well, and I think they've obviously still got to play Liverpool, Chelsea, and Manchester City, and they're just not going to take maximum points from that because
No,
they're not a team at that level to take maximum. They might prove me wrong, but I can't see it.
unlikely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know their other 2 games are against like Burnley and Sheffield United or something. So they will get a healthy points tally from those games. I'm sure they will pick up. I think they will pick up some points against the big boys, but I don't. No, I don't see them getting fourth now. It was a nice surprise for me though when the game was being played because I had work really early on Sunday, so I went to bed quite early on Saturday night, and you were 2-0 up when I last checked the score, and then I woke up and it was 2-2. I was like, oh, I'll take that then.
Yeah.
I'll take that in the circumstance. Cool. Shall we move on to the housekeeping, or that'll good with
Yeah,
you?
yeah, let's go straight into it. So annoyingly, after we did the podcast last week, and was it the day, literally like hours after we recorded, or the day of editing before we released, there was some news that
Yeah.
came out of blue. So let's deal with that first.
Sure, yeah, we don't have. I mean, there's not too much to say on it really. This was the news that Dion Sanderson, the Blues captain, has been in a bit of trouble for. He's been charged with drink driving. So yeah, I'm. There's not much you can say other than stating the obvious. He's obviously been stripped of the captaincy. I've read that he's been stripped of it until the end of the season. So I don't know if anything has been decided for next season. But we did notice at the Rotherham game he
You
had
said
a
last
John
week.
Ruddy. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. Um, yeah, and as we were recording, we didn't know what the circumstances were. The club officially, I believe, haven't said anything, but this has all came out in the week since. I think it's the right decision to take the captaincy off him. You can't, um, it's a really bad look. There's no excuse for it. Like, how do you can't excuse it? It's like, especially, it's bad for anyone to do that, and obviously no one should do that. But it's even like I'm sure he's probably under an immense amount of stress at the minute and so on, and I'm sure a lot of them probably are. But you're like probably like a millionaire footballer in the running. Like you shouldn't be out drinking really. Like for you, I would have thought. Like I'm running a half marathon this weekend in Birmingham, and I'm like not drinking at the minute because because I'm like, well, it's like you don't want to like you want to be at
My
your best,
body is
don't
a
you, if
palace.
possible. Yeah, my body is a temple. Um, so like if I'm thinking that, like surely a professional footballer would think that, Um so yeah, that's one thing. And then if you have had too much, like you can afford a cab home, I'm sure. Like, as a lot of people have said. But I don't want to get into it too much because we don't really know the like there's no excuse obviously, but right decision to take the captaincy off him. I would say in terms of him playing, if he's okay to play, and if Rowett thinks he is one of our best options at centre back going into this running, then I would absolutely play him still. Um, so yeah, there's kind of not much more I can really say on it, and we'll see what comes of it in the coming weeks.
A drink driving captain can never be my club.
I know. Yeah, yeah. It's bad, bad man. But the other news that broke, as you say, I think it was between us recording and posting this news all came out. There was some news at Villa as well, wasn't there, regarding Unai Emery?
There was. So Unai Emery signed a contract extension, or I think it was an option on the club side, that they triggered an extra year on his deal, and then they're going to renegotiate a contract with him in the summer. So it could be a weird situation where in the space of like 3 months we have two Unai Emery contract announcements. Obviously, I think the club were always going to activate that option, especially after the year we've had. Um, you know, contracts in football, there'd been a lot of talk about, Bayern Munich, Barcelona until Xavi decided to stay, even Liverpool needing a manager. So I think it was an optimum time to trigger in terms of stay back, hands off, he's ours, but also if the eventuality came where Unai Emery was poached by a top club, contracts are always there to maximize the profit you get or maximize the payments and money that you're going to get for them. So a bit like what I said with Leon Bailey's contract a few weeks ago. So and I'm sure that's something they'll look at in the new contract in the summer, because managers now we're seeing are tending to have release clauses. Graham Potter had a big release clause, I think, in his Brighton contract. Ruben Amorim, who was linked with the Villa job, just before we announced Unai Emery, who's now been linked with Liverpool and now West Ham. I think he has like a £20 million release clause in his Sporting contract. So, which, it's mad we're talking about manager transfer fees effectively in the way that we are now. Can't wait for Barcelona to put a £1 billion release clause in Xavi's contract. So yeah, great news for the club. But there's nothing more than we're just solidifying our assets basically. And Unai Emery's probably, he's the jewel in the crown at Aston Villa right now. While we've got some amazing star players like Martinez and Watkins, he is critical to us at the moment. And the only other news that's really come out is, thankfully, this news came out before we recorded today, which
Like
is
right before.
yeah, which is a rarity for the Second City podcast, which is the Premier League. Premier League clubs have backed a plan to look at a spending cap. I don't think we'd normally cover this, but basically Villa, Manchester United, Manchester City, and basically Chelsea, because they didn't vote, which means they didn't want to vote for a losing cause, basically, is the way I read that. Voted against it, but obviously it's had enough votes, so it's going to go through to the next stage of possibly being introduced. This is obviously to change the current profit and sustainability rules, which limit clubs to losing £105 million over a 3-season period, which has caught out Everton and Nottingham Forest, who have all had points deductions. It's sort of based on UEFA's financial fair play model. So I read there's I was surprised to see Aston Villa on a list of clubs that oppose this. There's a lot of rumor and conjecture going around. It looks like on the face of it that these rules have come in at a bad time for us when we're qualifying for European football consistently. Obviously, we were confirmed the lowest we'll finish this year is 5th, and we're definitely at least in the Europa League next year, regardless of how the end of the season pans out. So the new rules will help clubs that get into UEFA competitions and help clubs that are like always in the Champions League theoretically. But for those clubs maybe in the middle where they're sort of in and out or trying to be consistently in, it can kind of peg them back towards that lower group at a time when they're trying to get into the upper group, if that makes sense. That's the sort of rumor, and that's something we won't really know for a few years after it actually comes into place, if it does come into place, which it looks like it probably will. So, I mean, ultimately, the current profit and sustainability regulations needed looking at anyway. So, if this is the way they want to go, this is the way they're going to go. And Villa, amongst all the other clubs, just have to adapt to it.
Yes, sounds about right. The only other thing I've got in the housekeeping is that the women's championship season ended this week, so the Blues women's season is now finished. Worth mentioning just because we mentioned on it the other week that Darren Carter had left his job as the manager of Blues Women or the head coach, and he was replaced by Amy Merricks, who's taking charge of her first two games. I think it'd just be interesting to see how she gets on. She's very young, she's 30 years old. I think it'd just be interesting to see what happens there and how she works with Hope Powell and where the women's team go from here. They won her first game in charge at St Andrews, but then lost the second game, which ended the season away at Durham. Means Blues women finished fifth in the women's championship and were 10 points off promotion back to the WSL. So it's not like it was a close run thing. I think this season's been a bit of a disappointment compared to last season when I believe it was last season they missed out on promotion by 1 point. Considering how good the Blues women's team used to be, I'm sure it's something that Knighthead will want to improve again, and clearly getting people like Hope Powell involved, who obviously used to manage England women, says a lot about like the ambition there. And we've heard a bit about how when this new stadium and this sports quarter project is underway, they kind of want to put everyone under the one roof. So that's the academy, the men's team, the women's team, and so on. So it does seem like it'll be amongst their priorities going forward. So yeah, a bit of a disappointing season this season for the Blues women, but hopefully next season they can kick on. And as I say, I think it'll be interesting to see where Amy Merrick's career goes from there. Uh, but yeah, that's everything we've got in housekeeping, I believe.
So let's get on to this week's matches. So double game week for Villa and a huge single game week for Birmingham City. So I'll quickly talk about Olympiacos then, because so we've got the first leg of our European semi-final, first semi-final in Europe for Aston Villa since 1982. We tend to do quite well in semi-finals. Finals, not so much, especially in our generation. So it'd be interesting to see what sort of team we put out and what the options on the bench will be on Thursday night. It sounds very much like Robin Olsen will start in goal. After that, I think you could pretty much predict what it'll be. It'll be something along the lines of Cash Konza, Torres, and Luca Dean. Maybe for some added security, we might see Carlos come in and maybe Cash plays higher up, or Carlos will just straight come in for Cash and push Konza to right back. And we'll see Louise and McGinn in the middle, Morgan Rogers, Leon Bailey, Ollie Watkins, and then probably Diaby, but we'll then maybe see whether he goes with Cash higher up and in for Carlos sort of thing. So 90% of the team, you know what it's going to be. The bench, on the other hand, could be a lot of academy graduates on the bench. Which, you know, if they have to come on and play, they have to come on and play. What an experience that would be for them. Villa Park, I assume, will be absolutely rocking. I assume the away end full of Olympiacos fans will be bouncing as well. Lots of pyros and flares, I can imagine. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be tighter than it maybe would have been with the injuries we picked up this week. I do think we'll win 2-1. We won't keep a clean sheet anyway. And, you know, maybe we might play this game more defensively than we did against Lille, just because we will probably have Olsen in goal. I would rather see it, especially after what's happened against Chelsea, where we couldn't get out and we were really struggling. So I could imagine maybe we tweak things in that regard. So yeah, we'll see. I don't think we'll lose, but I think it'll be very, very close. And, you know, we should not be taking Olympiacos for mugs. Let's be putting it that way. Anyway, Survival Saturday.
Yes, Survival Saturday. Biggest Blues game for 6 years, probably. I'm thinking back to the last day when we beat Fulham on the last day to stay up, and I think it will feel a lot like that day. I think it'll be really nervy. Hopefully the sun will be out, and it is going to be a completely sold out St Andrews.
Are you going?
I am going, yeah. I may slightly contradict myself. I think obviously when I was talking about the game against Huddersfield, I was very negative with good reason. I said that it's a bit of a myth that these players are too good to go down, and I said they've proven over the season that they're not good enough. Like, I just want to rephrase that slightly. I wouldn't say the players have proven that they're not good enough. I think they've proven, if this makes sense though, they've proven that they're not too good to go down though.
Yeah.
But by that I mean they've proven at times this season, they've proved under Eustace and they proved in that brief spell under Mowbray that there was a lot of ability in this squad and there are good players there. and they proved then that they are certainly, in terms of ability, they're too good. You know, they should be mid-table probably. But I think what I'm trying to say is their performances this year have proven that you can have talent, but if you don't have desire, or you may have desire, but if you don't have as much as Sheffield Wednesday or QPR or Plymouth, then it's not going to be enough. So I just wanted to clarify that, because there have been times this season where these players have proven it, and there's been home games this season where they've proven it. Against Coventry just a few weeks ago, for the most part, they were excellent, and that was a case where they played a much better team going for a playoff spot, and work rate and the cauldron at St Andrews and the atmosphere got them over the line. And I think this weekend that's what we got to channel this weekend. And we got to channel despite how bad this season's been, we have had some really good home games. We had, like, obviously the West Brom game and the Leeds game, the Coventry game, the Preston game. This Saturday has got to be the same, because it is an era. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say it is an era-defining game. This is a huge, it's like, as big as it gets. This is the future of the club, and the pace at which Knighthead are able to build the club now could be shaped by this weekend. And I also said, it's almost like it's written that John Eustace is gonna, like, oh, it'd be so typical. Like, we're so close to staying up, and then Blackburn nick a goal, and John Eustace stays up. His Blackburn team stay up at our expense, and what a story that would be. But there's also other ways it can go our way as well. Like, you think, like, as a Don sound like I'm just completely defeated, because I'm not. I do believe we can get out of it this weekend. It's also like the last game of the season. We've got a lot of players out of contract at the end of this summer. This is going to be the last time we see Hogan, for sure, in a blue shirt. Other players that are out of contract, obviously we may see some of them again, but like John Ruddy, Neil Etheridge, Keshi Anderson, Gary Gardner, Mark Roberts, a lot of them are out of contract.
The loan players.
Yeah, Stansfield, all of them. Mentioned, like, oh god, it'd be such a typical narrative for Eustace to, like, send us down. What about this instead, though? We need a goal to stay up. Results elsewhere are going our way, but we're not winning. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I know exactly what you're going to say, and I'll let you say it.
Thank you. Let me have this moment. If the Duke scores the goal to keep us up, I'll probably cry, and I will, in his last game, like, because I think it probably would, if we stay up. I don't know. I hope not. I'd love to see him stay, but there's been no talk yet about next season and is he going to stay or not. It could be his last game for us, basically. If he scores the goal that keeps us up, that would be like that. That could happen as well. This weekend's gonna be, this Saturday's gonna be mad. Like, anything like this, it could be heartbreaking, or it could be absolutely
final day of the championship. Final day of the championship, there'll be points on Saturday where you are out of the relegation zone. There'll be points where you are in the relegation zone, and it'll be the same for pretty much all of the teams that are in it. It's just about where you are when the last whistle has gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I do believe we can get out of it. I think if we channel that atmosphere against Coventry, I do believe we can beat Norwich, because I think as well, everyone's saying, oh, Norwich have got, I said earlier, Norwich have got something to play for. They have, but not as much as I think people realise. I think it is very unlikely that Saturday ends and Norwich are not in the playoffs. I think they're 3 points clear of Hull, who are 7th, and they've got a 7 better goal difference. I think it's very unlikely that they're going to drop out. I know it is important where you finish in the playoffs. If you finish, like, obviously, if you finish 5th or 6th, it determines who you play in the semi-finals. So I can see them wanting to get something out of the game, of course, and I can see them going for it. But I think what we've got to fight for is 10 times what they've got to fight for. So I'm going to say for Blues, I think we will nick a 1-0 win. I think, and despite all my negativity earlier, I do think we'll win. And let's just hope the other results go our way. I think we only really need like one other result to go our way, and that'll just about be enough. Probably the Plymouth or the Blackburn game. So yeah, I do think I think there is we've got a chance to get out of it, and that's what I'm going to predict. So yeah. Hard cut to next week, and I'm
it'd be like that TikTok I made of Rooney's been sacked a few moments later.
yeah, sure. Sure. Villa though, the weekend.
Yeah, on Sunday 2 o'clock, we're on television against Brighton away.
Sorry, forgot to say, so are we. It was announced today that the Blues Norwich game will be on Sky, live on Sky. Sorry, forgot to mention that.
Yeah. So Brighton away.
Yeah, why did I say Blackburn? Yeah. Sorry.
Oh man, what an away day this will be. Bank holiday weekend, bank holiday Sunday. If the weather's anything like it's been today, 2 o'clock kickoff on the beach, it's going to be amazing down there. Whenever we seem to play Brighton, the weather usually seems to be quite good. So I'm always quite jealous of all the away fans that go to that one. The one time I did Brighton away, it was a night game in the League Cups and it chucked it down. But yeah, Brighton they haven't really scored in April. They scored one goal, which was a goalkeeper OG against Burnley. They are not in good form. They've not put back-to-back wins together since we beat them in the reverse fixture in September, which was the 6-1. They are not having a good season. They somehow have kind of got away with having quite a poor season this year. They've been very much under the radar of being not very good, but they've just somehow been in and around the top half. Probably because the teams at the bottom of the table have been so bad, and points deductions and things. It's hard to kind of predict because it kind of very much will depend on how Thursday night goes. I think with a chance to really confirm Champions League football, I can see us winning. Our record at Brighton is pretty good as well. We didn't lose there in the Championship. We drew the year we came up, and then we've won every year since. So I'll back us to win because our record there is good, and I'll say we'll win 2-0. Watkins will score. I got a feeling Ollie Watkins' 20th Premier League goal of the season's coming this weekend. So fingers crossed, and we'll take it from there, really.
Sounds good. Well, definitely going to be a huge episode next week of the Second City Pod. Like, we're going to have so much to. We were already talking before this episode about how are we going to do like next week's episode. Like, how exactly we're going to do it? Because there's going to be whatever happens. There's going to be so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously the Blues season will be done. It's our last game of the season, and Villa in a European semi-final, so plenty to talk about. And I think we'll wrap it up there, shall we, Cal?
Yeah. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever it is you're watching or listening to us on. Thank you for 200 YouTube subscribers as well. So it's been a very nice week or so. We've jumped up by about 50 odd, I think, in the last couple of episodes. So thank you very much for the love and support and all the comments. And we will see you again next week for a huge week.
Yeah, for sure. Follow us on our socials. We're on TikTok and Twitter. That's Second City Pod, so 2ND City Pod. We're looking to set an Instagram up soon as well, so we'll let you know once we've done that. Good luck to everyone running in the Birmingham 10K or the half marathon this weekend. I know a lot of people are taking part. Hopefully see some of you there. And until then, shit on the Villa. Keep right on.
Good luck in your marathon, Dan.
Oh, thank you.
As well. And I'll catch you next week up the Villa.